Fix the house or don't bother coming back, Dad threatened. I walked away without looking back. 2 days later, my phone exploded with messages. I stood in the empty room, staring at the gleaming new floorboards I'd laid with my own hands. Perfect seams. Not a nail head in sight. The walls a fresh coat of sage green, just the shade Mom had always wanted. The sound of footsteps behind me broke my concentration. "It looks great, son." Dad's voice was casual, too casual. "Really turned it around." I nodded, running my palm across the smooth baseboard trim. 2 months of dawn-to-dusk work. Every penny of my savings gone, all to make this room perfect. "So when can I move my stuff in?" I asked. The silence stretched too long. I turned to face him. Dad avoided my eyes. "About that." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. "Your sister needs a place to stay. We've decided she should take this room." The floor seemed to shift beneath me. "Tara, she has an apartment downtown. Her lease is up next month and she wants to save money." He cleared his throat. "We think it makes sense." "Makes sense?" My voice came out hollow. "I spent almost $4,000 fixing this place up. That was our agreement. I do the renovation, I get to live here rent-free for a year while I get back on my feet." Dad checked his watch. "Plans change, Aaron. You're good with your hands. You'll be fine." Fine. The word echoed in my head. Fine like when I lost my job at the architecture firm. Fine like when my landlord doubled the rent. Fine like when I swallowed my pride and asked my parents if I could move back home. "When do you need me out?" My voice sounded like it belonged to someone else. "Tara's coming this weekend, so—" He trailed off, gesturing vaguely. Today was Wednesday. I didn't argue, didn't plead. I'd spent 32 years trying to earn their approval. I was tired. I nodded once and brushed past him into the hallway. That night, I packed everything I owned into my pickup truck. Mom hovered in the doorway of my temporary bedroom, wringing her hands. "Sweetie, don't be dramatic. We just think Tara needs more support right now." More support than me sleeping in my truck, I wanted to ask, but I kept packing. "You could take the basement," she offered, the unfinished basement with the persistent water leak and black mold spots. "Nice." "I'm good," I said. When I finished loading the truck, Dad was watching TV in the living room. He barely looked up as I passed. 32 years of trying to be the son he wanted, and I couldn't even get a goodbye. Mom pressed a $100 bill into my palm at the door. "For gas," she whispered. I left it on the entry table when she turned away. The first night in my truck was the hardest. I parked behind a 24-hour grocery store, reclined the seat as far as it would go, and stared at the ceiling. My back cramped, my thoughts raced. But the devastating thing, I wasn't even surprised. Always the afterthought, always second place to Tara. By morning, I had one plan: call Mike. We'd been best friends since college, fallen out of touch when I started working 60-hour weeks at the firm. But if anyone would help, it was him. He answered on the third ring. "Aaron, man, it's been forever." I swallowed my pride for the second time that week. "I need a place to stay." 2 hours later, I was sitting in Mike's kitchen, a cup of coffee warming my hands, explaining everything. "Your own parents kicked you out after you renovated their room?" His disbelief was validating. "That's messed up. It's how they've always been." The admission hurt my throat. Tara first, me barely an afterthought. Mike's spare room wasn't much, a twin bed and a dresser, but it felt like a palace after my truck's cramped cab. "Stay as long as you need," he said. "Seriously." For the first time in months, I slept soundly. The memory of that renovation haunted my dreams, though. All the warning signs I'd noticed and pointed out. Dad's dismissive attitude toward each one. It had started the second week of the project. I'd pulled up the old carpet, revealing the plywood subfloor beneath. There was a spot near the closet, darker than the rest, with a slight give when I stepped on it. I'd pressed my hand against it, feeling the subtle sponginess. "Dad," I'd called out, "you might want to look at this." He'd come in, impatient already. "What now?" "This section of subfloor feels soft, and see this discoloration? There might be moisture damage underneath." He'd barely glanced at it. "It's an old house, Aaron. Of course the floor isn't perfect. We should probably pull up this section and check for rot before I lay the new hardwood. Otherwise, we could have problems down the—" "Do you know how much that would cost?" He'd cut me off. "Just put the new floor over it. It'll be fine. The next day, I noticed a faint, musty smell when I opened the closet. Not overwhelming, just off. I'd mentioned it again. Your mother's been storing old clothes in there for years, Dad had said. Of course it smells musty. But I'd seen tiny black specks in the corner of the closet where the wall met that soft section of floor. I'd pointed them out too. It's just dirt. This room hasn't been cleaned properly in years. He'd handed me a rag. Here, wipe it off if it bothers you so much. I'd wiped it away, but something about it made my skin crawl. I'd looked up mold remediation later that night, just to be sure. The proper way would have been to remove that section of subfloor completely, treat any affected joists, and replace it with new material before laying the hardwood. But Dad wouldn't hear of it. Stop trying to run up the bill, he'd snapped. We agreed on $3,700, stick to that. So I'd done as instructed, laid the moisture barrier directly over the suspicious spot, installed the beautiful oak hardwood that now no one would enjoy. All those memories flooded back as I lay in Mike's spare room, wondering if I should have pushed harder. But Dad had never listened to me, not once in 32 years. The calls started exactly 48 hours later. First Mom, then Dad, then Tara, each voicemail more frantic than the last. I ignored them all, let them stew. But curiosity got the better of me when Mom called for the 7th time. I answered. The house smells terrible, she said immediately. Like something died, we can't even be in there. Your father thinks it's something you did with the room. Of course he did. I followed standard renovation protocols, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Did he check under the floor? Under the floor? Why would he check under the floor? I closed my eyes, remembered Dad dismissing my concerns about the soft spot near the closet, about the faint, musty smell, about my recommendation to pull up the subfloor before laying the new hardwood. You need to check the subfloor for rot, I said. I warned Dad about it. Can't you just come look at it? Her voice took on that pleading quality that used to work on me. It's so bad we're staying at a hotel. The irony wasn't lost on me. They'd kicked me out and now they couldn't even stay in their own house. I'm busy, I said. Call a contractor. I hung up. The texts came the next morning, a steady escalation of urgency and blame. Dad, we need you to come check the room. I didn't respond. Dad, 3 hours later. The smell is getting worse. Your mother can't stop coughing. I closed the message. Dad, that evening, whatever you did to that room, you need to fix it. Now. By the next day, the tone had shifted from urgent to accusatory. Dad, we need you to fix whatever you did to that room. You clearly cut corners. Tara, Mom and Dad's house is uninhabitable because of your renovation. Thanks a lot. Dad, the contractor says it's black mold. $8,000 to fix it. This is your responsibility. Mom, please, sweetie, we can't afford this right now. Tara, you know what? You've always been jealous of me. Is this your way of getting back at us? Each message was more accusatory than the last, as if I'd intentionally hidden the rot I'd specifically warned them about. The texts continued for 2 more days before the calls started again, not just from my parents and Tara, but now my uncle and my aunt too. Family reinforcements called in to pressure me. I blocked each number as they came in. On day 5, curiosity got the better of me. I drove by the house when I knew they'd be out. Used my key, they hadn't asked for it back. The smell hit me immediately, a putrid, heavy stench that made my eyes water. I covered my nose with my shirt and walked to the converted room. The beautiful hardwood floors I'd installed were now pulled up in the corner, revealing exactly what I'd feared. The subfloor was black with rot, moisture seeping up from what was likely a long-term leak in the foundation. Exactly where I'd noted the soft spot. Exactly what I'd warned Dad about. But now the damage was far worse than what I'd initially seen. The black mold had spread, thriving in the warm, enclosed space beneath the new hardwood. It had crept up the interior of the drywall, creating a toxic pocket that had finally burst forth once the conditions were right. I told you to check this, I muttered to the empty room. The sound of the front door opening sent my heart racing. Aaron, is that you? Dad's voice, gruff and demanding. I stepped into the hallway, just checking what happened. He looked worse than I'd ever seen him. Tired eyes, unwashed hair, the smell was clearly taking its toll. Can you fix it? No hello, no how are you, just what can you do for me? It needs professional remediation, I replied. The whole subfloor is compromised, probably from a foundation leak that's been there for years. But you can fix it, right? Like you fixed up the room? He stepped closer. We'll let you stay after, for real this time. The laugh that escaped me wasn't kind. Are you serious? What? He had the audacity to look confused. You want me to spend thousands more fixing a problem I explicitly warned you about after you kicked me out the second I finished the last project? I shook my head in disbelief. No, not happening. Now listen here. No, you listen. My voice was steady. I spent $3,700 and 2 months of my life on that room. You promised it would be mine. The minute I finished, you gave it to Tara. Now you're living with the consequences of ignoring my advice about the subfloor. His face darkened. We gave you everything. You gave me nothing. I cut him off. I worked my ass off for everything I ever got, including that room you took away. I brushed past him, heading for the door. If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back, he called after me. I turned, a strange calm settling over me. I never planned to. That should have been the end of it, but the Morgans never could let things go. 2 days later, my phone exploded with messages from extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins I barely spoke to, all asking why I'd abandoned my parents, why I'd stolen renovation materials, why I'd deliberately sabotaged the house. The family group chat was worse. Mom had crafted a detailed narrative of my supposed betrayal, how I'd left them with a half-finished, dangerous renovation, how I'd taken advantage of their generosity, how I'd stolen materials they'd paid for. All lies but mud sticks. I blocked every number, deactivated my social media, focused on rebuilding my life. Mike connected me with a friend who needed architectural drafting work. The pay wasn't great, but it was something, a starting point. I saved every penny. Then the emails started. First from Dad's work account, then from new email addresses he'd create just to get past my blocks. Your mother is heartbroken, one read. The contractor says the damage is worse than they thought. The least you could do is help us pay for it. Another, this is what family does. We help each other, or have you forgotten that? And another, the insurance won't cover it. They're saying it's negligence, your negligence. I created email filters to send them straight to trash. Next came the handwritten letters, slipped under Mike's door when we weren't home. Dad must have followed me at some point to find out where I was staying. I burned each one without reading it. 3 weeks passed. I was at my new job measuring specs for a kitchen remodel when my phone buzzed with a call from the office. There's someone here insisting on seeing you, Jenny from reception said. Says he's your father. My blood ran cold. Tell him I'm unavailable. But Dad had never respected boundaries. 5 minutes later, he appeared in the doorway of the workspace. We need to talk. His voice carried across the quiet office. Several colleagues looked up. I walked toward him calmly, gesturing toward the exit. Outside. In the parking lot, I turned to face him. What do you want? He looked worse than the last time I'd seen him. Thinner, the bags under his eyes deeper. For the first time, I saw my father as what he was, an aging man who'd spent his life controlling others and was now facing the consequences. This has gone on long enough. He had that tone, the one that expected immediate compliance. Your mother is beside herself. The house still isn't fixed. Tyra had to find another apartment. Not my problem. Of course it's your problem. His voice rose. You're the one who what? I stepped closer. Who spent thousands renovating your house, who warned you about the subfloor, who got kicked out the minute the work was done. He faltered, that's not. It's exactly what happened. The calm in my voice surprised even me. And now you're here, what, expecting me to fix it, to come crawling back, to apologize. We're family, he said, as if that explained everything, as if that excused everything. No, the word was small but powerful. We're not anymore. His face changed, a flash of something, panic, crossing his features. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're just people I used to know. I turned toward the building. Don't come to my workplace again. Aaron, his voice cracked slightly. You can't just... But I was already walking away. For the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back. That night, I changed my phone number, sent an email to extended family I still cared about with my new contact information, specified that it wasn't to be shared with my parents or Tara. Most respected my wishes. Some didn't. I cut them off too. I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 weeks later, Dad escalated again. He showed up at Mike's apartment unannounced, pounding on the door at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. "I know you're in there, Aaron," his voice boomed through the door. "You can't keep ignoring us." Mike had finally had enough. He opened the door, standing firm in the frame. "Mr. Morgan," he said coolly, "Aaron doesn't want to speak with you. You need to leave before I call the police." "This is between me and my son," Dad growled. "Your son," Mike replied, "who you kicked out after he renovated your house. Your son who warned you about the mold you're now dealing with. Your son who you're now harassing. Leave, now." Dad's face contorted with rage, but something in Mike's steady gaze must have gotten through to him. He turned and left, but not before shouting, "This isn't over." But it was, at least for me. I found my own apartment the following week. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom in a modest neighborhood. But it was mine. No conditions, no expectations, no rot beneath the surface. 6 months later, I ran into my cousin Ellie at a coffee shop, the first family member I'd seen since the cutoff. "How are you?" she asked cautiously. "Good," I answered, surprised to find it was true. "Really good." She nodded, fidgeting with her cup. "They got the house fixed, finally, had to take out a second mortgage." I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no guilt, just nothing. "Your mom asks about you," she added. "Says she misses you." I took a sip of my coffee. "You can tell her I'm fine." Ellie seemed to hesitate, then asked, "Do you ever think you'll speak to them again?" I considered the question. Maybe, if they ever truly understand what they did, but I'm not holding my breath. "They're still your family," she said softly. I shook my head. "Family isn't just blood, Ellie, it's respect, care, trust. They never gave me any of those things." She didn't argue. Later that evening, I sat on the small balcony of my apartment, watching the sunset. Mike was coming over for dinner, bringing his new girlfriend who he thought I'd like. My boss had just given me my first solo design project. Things were looking up. My phone buzzed with a text from Ellie. "I didn't tell them we talked, but I thought you should know they're selling the house. Too many memories, Mom says." I set the phone down, feeling a strange sense of closure. The house where I'd never felt at home was no longer theirs. Somehow it felt symbolic. It's been a year now since that day in the renovated room, a year of rebuilding, a year of healing, a year of learning that I don't need their approval to be whole. I've discovered something important in these months on my own. People who truly care about you don't make their support conditional. They don't use guilt as currency. They don't demand loyalty they haven't earned. Real family, whether blood or chosen, builds you up instead of tearing you down. They help you fix the rot in your foundation instead of covering it up with something pretty. Sometimes I still dream about that room, the perfect hardwood, the fresh paint. In the dream, it's mine like it was supposed to be. I wake up with a lingering sadness, but it fades quicker each time. I don't have much yet, but what I have is mine, built on my terms, solid foundation, no rot beneath the surface. The most important renovation wasn't the room. It was me, learning to value myself when they wouldn't, learning to stand firm when they pushed, learning that sometimes walking away isn't giving up. It's the bravest thing you can do. And that lesson alone was worth every penny of those $3,700.